Coming up next on This Week in Radio Tech, how would you like to find more inventory to sell on your radio station without adding any more spots? And you, the engineer, we, the engineers, get to bring this up to management and sales. We're the heroes. Joe Marshall's joining us. He's going to tell us all about it next on TWiRT. This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you by Broadcasters General Store with outstanding service, savings, and support. Online at bgs.cc. By Broadcast Bionics with the Bionic Studio, including talk show control, social media, and visual radio. Broadcast Bionics brings exceptional audience engagement to radio and TV. By Angry Audio. Audio problems disappear when you get angry at angryaudio.com. And by Max Connect Wireless, prioritized high-speed internet service designed for transmitter sites and remote broadcasts. Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech, the show where we're talking about everything from the microphone to that light bulb at the top of the tower. And today's show, let's see, kind of comes in the middle of all that. Welcome in. It's the show where we talk technology about broadcasting, radio, audio, RF transmission. And today's topic is one that we've covered a little bit in the past, but we're going to cover it in such a way today that you, as the engineer, and I'm assuming most of you watching this show or listening to the show are broadcast engineers. That's our primary audience. And we're going to give you a way to, when you go in the manager's office and the manager looks up at you or the owner, and the first thing they say is, how much is this going to cost me? I hated that feeling. I just hated that feeling. Oh, I mean, when I was looked at it, just an expense. And now you can go into the manager's office and say, this is going to make you money. And I know how to do it now. And I know how to do it right. So let's make some money together. We're talking about, we'll tell you what, I'll let our guests talk about it. That's what our guest is here for. Our guest is Joe Marshall. Joe, welcome into the show.
Thanks, Kirk. How are you doing?
I am good. It's good to see you. You are, you're up in the Cincinnati area, aren't you?
That's correct. Yep, northern Kentucky, just across the river from Cincinnati.
Cool. Well, we're going to be talking about this technology that's kind of old called RDS, but and in just a minute, we're going to watch a quick video on what you can do with it. And then we're going to explain to you how to get there. But give us just a little insight. We'll talk about the company that you're with in a few minutes, but I kind of want to hit on the technology. So tell me about your, how are you qualified to talk to us about radio data systems?
Right. So we'll talk about Q in a few minutes, but RDS is a technology that's been out there available to FM broadcasters for a while now. And your story there is exactly right. Usually we're not, as engineers, taking a revenue generating proposition into that office. So this is a great opportunity where we have an existing technology and new technology in HD radio that allows us to take advantage of the radio's display. You'll probably already see some stations out there showing us what's playing. We get the song title and we get the artist. And the problem we've got right now in the industry is there's an inconsistency with the way that technology is using. And it's creating sort of a disconnect with what a modern listener is expecting. They're expecting to see more information. They're expecting to see something on that screen related to what they're listening to. And so we'll talk briefly about some studies that the NAB did to help us bring more consistency to that. But yeah, if we could show the video, we could give a great example of what we're talking about.
So I want to preface on this video, our producer Suncast is going to roll this in just a moment. This video was recorded with a camera pointed at a car radio. To me, it looks like an aftermarket radio, but I'm not sure if it's came with the car or if it's aftermarket. You know?
Yeah, this is actually an aftermarket radio that's mounted in an enclosure by just a local car stereo shop. And this is what this particular station is using for monitoring in their technical operations center. Okay,
so I want to warn my engineer friends that the audio on this video clip was not directly pumped into the phone. It was ambient in the room. So the audio is not that great, but you can certainly understand what's going on. And I took this 3-minute video and I telescoped it down. So you don't have to listen to the entire commercial, or also there's DMCA. We don't want to play a song on this podcast because it'll get flagged. So I cut the song part down really short. But what's important is the transitions from one thing to another during the spot break, with the weather forecast, the liner, the commercials, and the song ending and the next song beginning. It's just typical radio stop set, except I've telescoped it a bit. You can tell easily where I've telescoped it, but here's what I want you to do. If you're watching this podcast, watch the display and listen, and this is what you could have on your station. Did I intro that pretty fairly, Joe?
That's perfect, Kirk. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Suncast, let's roll it.
Wbko 1063 helps you forget the stress of the day with today's hits and yesterday's favorites.
Hurry in-store or online and celebrate Lowe's Spring Fest before it's over. Offers valid to 4/28 while supplies last. Selection varies by location. U.S. only.
Attention home buyers and homeowners. If you're shopping for a mortgage or considering refinancing your home, call one of Kentucky's top mortgage lenders. South Central Bank can help make your dreams become reality. Contact them today. You can even apply online at southcentralbank.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back to the quickest podcast ever, brought to you by Kohl's.
Today's topic, Mother's Day.
Just picking out some gifts at Kohl's.
Talk about shopping goals.
20% offer valid April 28th through May 2nd. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
When you're looking for the best pizza in town, look no further than Jet's Pizzas. Just text your order to 270-938-1001. That's 938-1001. It's the easiest order yet. Jet's Pizza. Better because it has to be. Located off Campbell Lane in front of Lowe's.
From the Studio Financial Weather Center, here's Shane Hollandy.
Here's your Wbko First Alert forecast for tonight. From Wbko, alerting you first, covering you best, I'm Chief Meteorologist Shane Hollandy for Wbko 1063.
Wbko 1063. Just shoot for the stars.
Okay. All right. So we saw there a display of text that was very well aligned, perfectly aligned, basically with the audio cuts, and we saw some artwork on the screen. Joe, carry us through a little bit about what we saw, what technologies were we provided the basic functionality of what we saw there.
Right. So it's there's a lot going on, but it's actually ends up being a very simple programming for the stations. So you'll see it starts out with music, and you've got the song title and artist, right? So that's coming over,
and that album art. We didn't hear the song at first. At least I didn't in my ear.
Right.
But we saw the album art for The Weeknd, that artist, right?
Yep.
At the very end of that song.
You're seeing an HD radio. So one thing that HD radio offers over FM is the ability to display that album art. So that album art actually comes over the broadcast signal. So you're getting that from the car's antenna into your radio. You also saw a logo for the station, Wbko, there. So the HD radios are actually designed to cache those station logos in the radio, and then deliver the album art as the audio comes. The album art gets delivered as well. So those files generally are 200 pixels by 200 pixels. They're not very large. And HDradio.com actually has specifications for those graphics and what's capable of being displayed on HD radios. You can have different types of files. You just have to keep them very simple. Now, the cool thing is what you saw on that display, you saw the song title and artist, and then we went into a spot break, right?
Right.
You saw the first ad actually had the station's logo. Then the next couple ads also provided text. So you got text with that first ad and the station's logo. Then what Q can offer is a content delivery system, a content management system that allows you to create these text and graphical campaigns. These are called ad syncs, and they align with the audio whenever that advertiser is played. Q is the content management that says, hey, do we have anything we need to display with this audio clip? And it lines up that text. And if there's graphics, if it's an HD station that can deliver graphics, you can actually, like you saw there, have a Kohl's logo pop up on your screen. We saw Jet's Pizza, and just
the bank, South Central Bank,
and the bank, right? So I think you've seen that video maybe a couple times now. You did the editing. What we've seen and what we've actually done a few studies on is the recall of those brands.
Oh yeah, because I just recalled South Central Bank, and I've seen that. I saw the video probably 4 or 5 times while I was telescoping it. Sure, I get that, right. But I noticed that. Okay.
But you
so
see
my
logo.
Recall, the idea is my recall improved over audio alone.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So you get anywhere, depending on what metrics you're looking at. We saw just an unaided awareness increase of over 30% and an aided awareness boost of 60%. So, and this is not just the graphics. Really, the power is in the text there. If you were listening to that on a different radio, and we'll look at some of these examples here later.
We will.
You're not always going to see the graphics. So what we do, we provide that content of the text and the graphics, and it's all delivered out of the transmitter. But depending on what type of receiver you have, for example, that same signal is broadcast in FM, right? Because we're talking about HD, where we've got the digital sidebands delivering that higher quality audio, but we have the main FM frequency, which some car radios are going to receive. So those car radios would receive the RDS. Okay, so that RDS signal, and what we do with the content is we standardize the exact same text that's delivered through the RDS system. We match it up with what's delivered through the HD text. And sometimes the HD will also have graphics associated with it.
So let me comment a bit, and we're going to jump into how this got started and what this looks like on different radios, and we're going to see what the problem is, and then we're going to see how that gets mitigated, fixed, or mostly fixed through using some smart third-party interaction, which is what the company you're with, QUU, does. RDS to me has always looked like a technology totally designed by one committee after another. Hey, if we add this, and then poorly implemented by radio manufacturers, or maybe poorly is not the right word, but everybody's got a different implementation. And so broadcasters are always wondering, do I put my slogan, my call letters here? Okay, that's pretty standard. But what about my slogan? What about a slogan that's too long to fit on the screen? How does my title and artist work on people? Like, I just took a radio out of my 15, 16-year-old BMW. I got a BMW X5, came with a standard stock radio, and it has RDS in it. But it was terrible. I mean, it was the 8-character readout of RDS. And it rarely gave me anything worth looking at. So I just ignored it most of the time. And if it memorized a station's call sign, if I drove to a different market to a station on the same frequency that didn't have RDS, it would show me the call letters of the old station back where I did get RDS. So at that point, when I drove to a different market, it was wrong, right? It would lead me to believe it was
absolutely
station from city A, but I'm in city B and it's a different station. So, it's got its shortcomings. Let's look at a couple graphics here. First one here, the first slide here, Suncast. We can go ahead and take a look at the problem. Why don't you tell us about what we're reading here?
So what you're explaining is exactly what we're seeing in the industry, and this is a lot of this is part of a study that the NAB Xperi did, and I think we'll have those links in the show notes, and I would encourage everyone to take a look at this, because I know we have mostly engineers watching this today. And this is great. It will give them a great insight into what standard practices could create some more consistency. You've just explained in the automotive industry, just about every single car manufacturer, every single radio manufacturer will, in a sense, display this information slightly differently. Not only is there a difference in the radios, but there's layers of technology that we're dealing with. So not only do we have the automotive industry to deal with, which I think we're moving towards a much more standardized approach, and we'll talk about what the future holds for the radio industry and the automotive world. But we as broadcasters in the radio industry really need to prepare and provide some consistency so that when these modern listeners are looking at the radio, that we can challenge things like the streaming services that are now starting to become available on the dash. We want to look consistent like they do.
Yeah. That's why we have two problems. We have, as the slide shows here, the automotive industry itself is inconsistent with how the radios display our text and images. And number two, our own industry, the radio industry, we are wildly inconsistent, a lot of times because we may not know what you really should put into each field, or we may have, let's say, not smart software handling that. So we may take a title from our automation system, artist and title, which maybe is all caps, or maybe it has a spelling mistake, or maybe it has some dashes in it, or some quotation marks in it, or things that mess the system up. And we just stick that directly into the RDS encoder, and it ends up looking stupid on any radio. So we're gonna tell you, we've got to address that. And Joe, I'm going to take a quick break, and the next slide coming up, it's going to be those 9 pictures. So we're going to look at that slide and look at what more of the problem is. Okay.
Awesome.
In just a couple minutes. Joe Marshall is my guest. He's with a company called Q. It's a company made up or helped started by several broadcasters. Beasley Broadcasting, for example, is involved. And a good friend of mine, Steve Newberry, is the head of this thing. And Joe Marshall's been brought online to be head of I didn't give your title earlier, head of customer success. And that means Joe has both a technical background and a practical background in the data handling and making this look good. So we're going to look at how to make this all look good and discuss how to get to that point. This Week in Radio Tech, our 542nd show is brought to you in part by my friends over at Angry Audio. Angry Audio, the makers of this amazing little gadget. Well, lots of gadgets, and then but this one here has been flying off the shelf, especially during these COVID times. This is the Bluetooth audio gadget, and this lets you take audio from your phone to and from your phone. Like if you have a phone conversation, you want to put it on the air, but you don't have money for a phone line and a hybrid. Well, just make your call or receive your call on your phone, and then it's Bluetooth into this box. Now, this box is a little bit heavy. It's got a good power supply in it. It's got well-designed electronics, good RF front end, excellent audio specs. And on the back, you've got AES EBU out. You've got also analog in and out. So you can put your callers on the air from your home your home studio, your podcast studio, wherever you are. This will get that audio in and out of your console. Also, if you've got, let's say you did an interview on your phone, using the mic in your phone or maybe an external mic. So you've got a high quality audio interview in your phone. You don't have time to, send the file to iCloud or somewhere else or mail it to yourself or whatever that's too big to mail. Just play it off your phone. Your phone, when it's Bluetooth into here, if it's a one direction piece of audio, the audio quality is higher. This automatically selects the proper Bluetooth mode, Bluetooth profile for what you're doing. If you're talking two-way, it picks the two-way profile. You're going one-way audio with high quality audio, it picks the one-way. So if you've got a great song on your phone or a whole concert or something, you can play it right off the phone through the Bluetooth and right into the Bluetooth audio gadget. Check that out from Angry Audio. Also, my favorite here, they're cable adapters, dongles if you want to call them that. These are the Studio Hub, the original Studio Hub cables. That's all part of Angry Audio now. Check it out at angryaudio.com. Angryaudio.com. You can get their products from your favorite dealer, but you need to ask for it. Yeah, don't let them sell you something else. Ask for actual real Studio Hub or real angry audio gear. Hey, our show is also brought to you in part by Max Connect Wireless. We'll be right back.
I'm Gary Morrill, Midwest Regional Director of Engineering for Alpha Media. When I first spoke with Josh Bone about Max Connect, he told me they'd work great for remote transmitter sites where connectivity was a challenge. And he's absolutely right. We even have sites where we're using this as a backup to our STL using Max Connect's dual carrier option, and it works perfectly. We also have times where we need to be able to get out to a venue where it's kind of challenging because everybody and his brother is trying to stream video at the same time, like at a big sporting event. And you know what? Our data gets through every time because it's prioritized packet data. It works for us. It'll work for you. Max Connect. Check it out.
Indeed, check it out. I'm holding which one is this? This is the PepWave 4G LTE modem, but it's not the modem that makes the difference. It's the SIM cards in here from Max Connect Wireless. They are their own, I forget what you call it, but they're like their own carrier. They have their own APNs, and you get the prioritized data because of the deals that Max Connect Wireless has made with the cell carriers. Whether it's AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, or T-Mobile, you get high priority data, all your packets, and a fixed IP address. Thanks a lot, MaxConnectWireless.com, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. And then, right there's the website. I know it's spelled funny, so you can click on it from our show notes and see it that way. All right, we're talking with Joe Marshall about RDS, and some people, RDS, but not anymore. It's important. And one reason it's important is because our competitors like SiriusXM or Spotify or Pandora, with smart dashboards, smart radios in the dashboard, they have a pretty consistent display because they're kind of in charge of it. They tell the radio manufacturers, oh, you want us? Here's what you put on the display. But the radio industry, since we're kind of a whole bunch of cowboys here, we haven't had that singular voice. Now, NAB has done some work on this. And so, Joe, I think we're going to have to speed up our going through these slides here and get folks to look at these. Joe, could we go ahead and look at the next slide with the one with nine circles on it and take a look at these? Tell us what we're looking at here with all these different radios, Joe.
Right. So you have to keep in mind as a broadcaster that you've got a lot of different radios out there that can receive. This is going to be the same information on every single radio being broadcast. So you can see there's a not only a large number of different receivers, but one thing to note is that there are about 80% of the cars out on the road today that can receive this text information. So there's a huge listenership that can see this text when we display it. Now HD is a little bit smaller percentage, and you'll see that some of these displays are text only. The one in the bottom corner there, it's displaying an icon on a station that doesn't have a graphic. So there are many different displays. If the graphics are broadcast, some of these displays will receive them if they're HD radios. But 80% of the vehicles out there can receive this text information. And if we're not taking advantage of that, I think we're really missing out. This is almost, we saw those examples of advertisements. This is found inventory. We don't have to add any time or we don't have to add another 30-second spot to get additional revenue. This is already the core radio product that we can take advantage and upsell with the current inventory we already have. And it's just a great opportunity. So not only the consistency here, but revenue boosts that broadcasters could take advantage of. But you see the wide variety of radios. Yeah.
Before we get to the end of the show, I want to talk about a couple ideas that we as engineers can bring to the management, the sales department on how to sell this. I've got a couple ideas myself. I've sold a lot of radio. Let's look at our next slide. This is the listener experience with if you've got a QUU empowered radio station. So tell us about these three displays.
Right. So the Q offers basically three different tiers of content management. Q Artist will be that song title and artist we're all used to seeing. Q Listener, this allows us to add promotional content. We could actually, when the music is not playing, what's being displayed on your radio? Okay, we have a lot of radios out there a lot of stations broadcasting, I should say, that you may just see their call letters, and that's all you see all day. That could be a static setting in the transmitter itself. There could be no dynamic capability. So with Q Listener, we add the ability to feed in day parting information, so we could promote the morning show. On this screen, you see we're promoting $1,000 Thursdays on Wbko.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So you could promote concerts, contests. Like I said, your talent that's on the air. You could put their names, the name of the show, all sorts of things to create a relationship with your station and the listener to create your brand on the radio. So this text can really help you expand your brand within the local market. And honestly, I mean, that's what we're talking about here, right? Radio is local. That's why radio is so important, because we have this local content. So this just helps really create that great relationship from the broadcaster to the listening audience and gets the word out there. You could also use this for emergency messaging, sports scores, all sorts of things. You could take advantage of being able to put into the Q interface and either, like we talked about before, synchronize it with the audio when certain events play, or you could have it just by day part from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and we're going to play the morning show promo. That way, when I'm looking at the radio, what I'm listening to lines up with what I'm seeing, and there's no disconnect. It's not a jarring, wondering what's displaying on my radio. It lines up perfectly and really creates a good experience for the listener.
That the picture in the middle from the 2013 Toyota, text on HD, but no graphics. Okay, I get that. But on the Lexus, it does have graphics. So the Wbko logo is on the right-hand side, right?
You got it, yeah. And so that logo, unless you're playing, you have an artist or album artwork that comes up there, that standard logo will display and always give you that branding for your station when you're tuned in.
So before we get to the next slide, I want to mention, so years ago, I was engineering for some stations, contract engineer, and I heard about this RDS thing, and I thought it was kind of cool. And so what would happen is I'd go to the manager, and I'd say, hey, there are some radios out there that will display our call letters and maybe some, slogan information. This is way before, we had thought about dynamic text. And the manager would say, well, that's cool. How much does it cost? Well, the encoders at the time, I may have told about $1,500. And the manager said, well, how many radios do that? Well, not very many right now. No, leave. That was the end of that. Unless it was free, the manager, until the manager bought a brand new Jaguar and it came with a radio that had RDS in it. Then, oh my gosh, well, tomorrow is too, can't come soon. Get that thing on the air now. Right?
Yep. And it's amazing when we deploy this technology, the sales people will get in their cars and they get so excited about it. And when we train them, they want to enter a campaign and they just want to run out to their car and get in their car and look at it. They're so excited about it because it adds so much and so much branding and recognition and awareness to your client's message as well as the station's message.
And really that's where we're going in the conversation. But I'll before we get to the next slide, we'll get to in just a second. In the past, we've always been able to put text on RDS. We've had some tools, some middleware tools to do that, but they really haven't coordinated very well. They haven't worked out that well. And it's a couple of my stations, we've done some of that. And, it's okay, but oftentimes it doesn't match up or the typing is wrong. And we'll get into it, but the Q solution fixes the typing. It makes things consistent. Yeah. It gives you a consistent message on there that is, bam, perfectly timed with that audio. So anyway, we're going to get to that. Let's look at the next slide. And I think we have an audit here of what you're going to need. Tell me the equipment you'll need. Okay. Right.
So as an engineer, we still have to deal with equipment. A lot of things are virtual these days. There's a lot of networking, but for a transmitter, we still need hardware, right? So to an existing FM transmitter, really all you'd have to add for the text capability. And like I said before, the text is very powerful. The logos and the graphics are fun, and they add a little bit of awareness. But really, the text, we have proven in studies that the text is very powerful. So RDS encoder will supply that text to an analog system. Now, with an HD radio system, there's a larger investment to move to a digital analog hybrid HD radio system. So that's going to add these interfaces in front of the transmitter, importers and exporters that the middleware will interface with. So of course, we have automation systems already in place. We have our traffic system, which tells us what ads are going to play any given day. So we have the automation, the traffic. Those will feed into either the Q system or another piece of middleware, and Q actually interfaces with many other the other middleware solutions. Now, the only other thing to consider really is most of these networks are already in place. We have a studio network with the automation on it. We might have a transmitter network, an enterprise network. Does the transmitter site have internet connectivity? Because we are going to be providing content, graphics, URLs, and different things. So there's consideration of where your importer and exporter and RDS encoders are living and where the middleware is living. Most of the time, we've got middleware on the studio side, the encoder on the transmitter side. But depending on your network setup, we could figure out the best solution for any given situation.
And different engineers have different setups. For me, if you're not an HD station, you may very well have a composite STL, whether it's a traditional RF 950 megahertz composite or whether it's one of the new IP composite STLs. You can do your RDS encoding at the studio where everything is already anyway. But if you have HD, you may have your HD gear out at the transmitter site, or you may have a newer system that allows you to have that at the studio. So, but obviously we have to make a consideration where the data needs to go and so forth. Hey, let's look at the next slide. Yep. We got a few to shuffle through here so we can get an understanding. And by the way, I want to let our listeners know that we do have some diagrams coming up so you can visually see how this stuff plays together. But right now we're going to go through some text and learn what we got to learn. Let's see that next slide there. Number 7,
right. So
2.
So what we've talked about, word of the day is consistency, right? We need to, as broadcasters, we need to be more consistent. So to do that, we kind of have to understand what goes into this RDS signal. So the station ID is a 4-digit, is a PI code. That's unique to every station in the country, in the world, actually. Right. That identifies the station. We also have the PTY code. This is going to identify what kind of what format you are. Are you a country station? Are you a rock station? Are you sports talk? Those codes are often not identified in the transmitter or the RDS encoders. So you might have a rock station that comes up, and on some radios it says it's a country station. So it's really important to make sure that you're providing the right information out to all the radios of what your format actually is. Those categories are searchable. Now the Rtu field, this is the radio text field. That is where we're going to have our song title and artist, our advertiser message, our promotional messages. In some cases, this is a static slogan or static message that can be put into an encoder or a transmitter. But really, that's 64 characters. And what we do, what Q can do also is break this up into 2 lines of 64. There's actually 3 lines of text available in the protocol, but only 64 characters total. So that's why you're seeing a lot of this inconsistency, is because we don't have a great system to package this protocol. And most of the RDS encoders are speaking this UECP, Universal Encoding Communications Protocol. And so Q and other middleware, or Q in conjunction with other middleware, package this information, and you don't have to really see all the messiness that's going into it. You just put it in these two lines, and Q puts it out to the encoder, and the encoder sees this, sees the information, and it's consistent. Now the PS field, these are going to be your call letters or frequency. So this is just 8 characters of information. 8 characters. That's all you get for that field. Before
we finish this slide, you've got a tip of the week coming up at the end of the show. I've got a tip of the week right now. And my tip is, those of you watching this, hey, Suncast, go ahead and put that slide back up. Go and put the slide back up. It's my tip. My tip of the week is screenshot this slide, because I always forget what the PTY code is, what the RT. I know the PI code, and you can go to websites and turn that. Oh, thank you, Suncast. There you go. Screenshot this slide. This is your handy dandy quick reference information as to what these fields are. I always forget. I have to look them up, and I've probably gotten them wrong more than once, more than twice, more than 3 times. So there you go. We'll take a deep breath. Screenshot. All right, that's my tip of the week. All right, let's carry on. Go ahead, Joe. And the 4 to 5% injection level. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And generally, there's actually no well-defined injection level, but what the NAB suggests is that 4 to 5% injection level. The only other thing to consider is these dynamic PS fields. So these are 8-character chunks. What's really cool about what the middleware solutions can do, and Q, for example, we can take the 64 characters of that RT field, and we can break it up into 8-character chunks. And we can provide those dynamic 8-character chunks completely separately from the RT fields. So depending on the age of your radio, it may display a nice, 32 or 64 line stream of text and scroll it for you and look beautiful. But if your radio doesn't do that, we can actually provide a separate set of 8-character chunks that maybe it's more simple. The message can be slightly less words split up into a more simple message. And so every radio gets the same message in a very digestible way.
Gotcha. Let's look at the next slide real quick.
Right. So HD, we're talking about all the same things, consistency of that text. So in HD, we're talking about station information services. Same information is in here. We've got call letters. We've got the PTY, which is your format, your station slogan, your station messaging. On top of that, we're also going to be dealing with logos. So these are those, I mentioned this earlier, small 200 by 200 images. They're small files. The album art and our advertiser logos are slightly smaller because those get delivered live and they don't get cached in the radio. So we want them to be a little smaller, so they get delivered as quickly as possible. So there's some stations out there that do have HD1, HD2, HD3, HD4, and there's the opportunity to brand each of those HD stations. You could have different types of playlists, different genres, different formats on each of these stations. So why not brand it as its own individual station? So we see a lot of HD1s with some text and some information about the station, but then the HD2s might have you might even not even know what's coming over those secondary channels.
Yeah.
We need to treat them just like they're another channel on, like we talked about, Sirius XM has hundreds of channels. Every single one of them has a station or channel logo and provides text information on it. So we could really brand these secondary channels with these capabilities of HD, with the text and the graphics. And
something that I noticed when I put, and it's a Kenwood Exelon, I put an aftermarket into my BMW because I was tired of the 8-character RDS text that it came with. I noticed that on one of the stations, but only one here in Nashville. It happens to be K-Love. If I tune to them, and within a few seconds, I get the HD1 of K-Love. If I save that as a button, their station logo saves in a small version to the button. So all the other stations don't have a logo on the button, but K-Love does, and I think that's amazing. And so, and when you mentioned, when you showed me the video with the different advertiser logos, and I was wondering, well, what if I save the station to a button while an advertiser logo is on? Does Jet's Pizza get saved, or is it station logo? And I think that the radio knows the station logo versus the dynamic artwork, right?
Right. Those are different parts of the delivery protocol. It knows the station logo, and it will cache that in the radio. The other logos pass through and get played out as they're received, or I should say as they're triggered.
Yeah. Well, what if I want Jet's Pizza on my button? I mount my Jet's Pizza station.
We could call them up and have them send that logo out for a while.
That's right. Hey, we're talking to Joe Marshall. Joe's with QUU. Now we've got, hang on, because we do have some diagrams. To me, I'm a visual learner. I want to see the diagrams of, we've talked about Q, but what do they really do? And that's coming up because it fixes a lot of problems that we've had with RDS and HD data, metadata. So that's coming up. Our show, This Week in Radio Tech, is brought to you in part by my friends at Broadcast Bionics and their cool Camera One system. We'll be right back.
Camera One from Broadcast Bionics. Designed to bring video to your audio content. Visualizing radio and podcasts for social media. Camera One can automatically create, capture and brand professionally switched video for live streaming or upload, making your production shareable. Control and configure using a web browser on any device. Camera One is available as a 4-camera or 8-camera system using the Blackmagic A10 Mini range, including the A10 Mini Extreme. You can use cameras to suit your studio and your budget. You'll need one camera for a studio wide shot and usually one camera per microphone. A standard multi-channel sound card or IP driver monitors audio from each studio microphone, and we work natively with Axia systems. Ideally, this will be a post-fader feed from each mic, although you can use pre-fade audio or a mic split if that's all you have available. These audio levels are used to intelligently switch the video feed when each contributor is talking. You can also group microphones together into one shot and use the audio from a mixer's aux bus. You can use Camera One's auto switch feature, or disable it and switch using the on-screen buttons or the buttons on the A10. Recordings can automatically start when you tell the system you're on the air. This on-air indication can be linked to your studio's red lights via IP or an Avantec Adam GPIO interface. You can quickly browse all the videos that have been automatically created during your broadcast, download them and post. Camera One is a user-installable system. You'll need a good spec Windows 10 PC, i7 with plenty of storage and 16 gig of RAM. It's better if this machine isn't used for anything else. Remember, you can control the software in a web browser on another device on your network. Camera One, a thrifty way of creating scroll-stopping video from your show or podcast from Broadcast Bionics.
That is the coolest thing. Oh man, they've been working on this for years, and they've really gotten this down to a cool science. Broadcast Bionics, check them out. One of the websites, you can go to bionic.radio. Bionic.radio is their website, and you can see all about it. I can't wait to put it at one of my radio stations. I really can't. Okay. We're talking to Joe Marshall. I'm Kirk Harnack, by the way, on This Week in Radio Tech. It's our 542nd episode. We're talking about RDS, and I know we've talked about that before, but, it's always been a little frustrating that we have such inconsistent displays on RDS. And so we're going to cut through a couple more slides here to get us set up, and then Joe Marshall, our guest, is going to talk about what Q fixes that's been wrong with RDS. So, Joe, why don't we take a look at our next slide here? Suncast, I believe it's number 4 we're looking at. There we go. What are we looking at here, Joe?
The chain of... we talked about the air chain here, right? We've got our automation playing out. And the next step is where does this information come from? So Q as a provider, content provider, can provide this information based on what's playing out of the automation to the middleware. The middleware is what is going to package that information into a stream of data that can be interpreted by the RDS encoder, sent to the RDS encoder to put on the transmitter. So really, there's also some opportunities within these middleware systems to provide default messaging. when you're not playing music, when maybe when you're not playing advertisements, what is going to be on the air? What is your station's brand going to look like on that text? What do we want the listener to see? So of course, as a content provider into this system, we have a middleware solution called a jump gate. That's actually a piece of hardware. There's Arctic Palm from Xperi, which is a middleware, software based, and TRE, of course, from TRE from BE. The radio experience is what that stands for. So these will pull in the song title and artist information, and instead of having inconsistencies of capital letters here and all caps, and this is lowercase, and this one has this capitalized, the data being provided is standardized. All caps on the radio just doesn't look good. We really should never use all capital letters on the radio displays. And so this middleware packages that signal for the RDS encoder, and at the same time makes it consistent for all the messages that are coming through. But this is also information that the stations are going to be putting into this system, right? So we call this a multi-department effort between engineering, of course, who we're talking to today, programming, marketing, and sales. That brand of the station is a lot of different people have input, and so the information put into Q or put into the middleware needs to be carefully considered, and how it's going to be looked at, and the consistency of that message.
At my little radio stations, I realized not major market, small market. We've got a few stations that have middleware, and we're able to get a more consistent thing. Although we're not using the Q system yet to really sell campaigns to advertisers, but we do get better RDS at our stations that have the middleware. We got a couple stations that don't use the middleware, and it's not always a great RDS experience. So let's move on to our next slide here. What is the last one here with the text? Oh, in-dash monitoring matters. Okay, tell us what's this.
So this can be very important when you start to display more messaging, more content on your radios. You'll want to be able to monitor these. So again, I'll go back to that NAB study. Part of the NAB study was focusing on daily or at least quarterly monitoring of the messaging on the radio. And the idea was, let's identify some captains that will monitor the radio in their vehicles at different times of day. Let's identify people with different types of radios in their vehicles, RDS only, HD maybe with graphics, HD maybe without graphics. Let's make sure that our messaging is consistent. Because of the inconsistency of the automotive receivers, it's kind of on us to look at what we're broadcasting and try to make it look as good as possible, the best it can on as many different receivers as possible. The other way we can, so mostly we're talking about the automotive market, right? So you can identify people in your station to do this monitoring. That's one of the main suggestions that we see from NAB. There are some tabletop radios. There's also some professional solutions that you could put in your rack room and connect to an antenna. So there's companies like Innovonics, TWiRT, and Bellar that have some professional monitoring solutions that can also, in some cases, have a web interface. So if you wanted to sit at home on your laptop and dial in and see what's being displayed over the air, you can stream the audio and look at the text at the same time, and even the graphics to check what's going out over the air. And that gives you a confidence that what you're putting into your middleware or the Q system, you're verifying what's coming out. So that's another important part, not just for consistency, but for confidence monitoring.
I don't know if it monitors as much as the solutions from Innovonics, TWiRT, and the other one there, Bellar. But I know that a couple of audio processors that I'm familiar with, the Omnia 7 and the Omnia 9, you can remote into them and look at the RDS data if you've got RDS licensing turned on in that audio processor. You can see that. And that's how I've been able to monitor my station in Hawaii to see if, because I can't rely on anybody to tell me from their car what's going on, but I can look at the audio processor to make sure it's putting out the right stuff.
Yeah, I was dialed into an Omnia 9 just yesterday, checking out their RDS information. Great features to have, built it right into the processor.
All right, so I'm diagram guy because that's how I understand things. So let's look at our next slide that actually is a diagram. And the next two slides actually, but tell us what we're looking at here. How does this flow work?
Right, so this explains Q's part of this process. So where Q360 is up top, that is in conjunction with the middleware, whether you have a jump gate, Arctic Palm, or TRE. So the playout automation is going to be sending playout, as played data. In some cases, this is what we previously used in the RDS stream. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that information in. We're going to talk to Q and say, hey, this is what's playing. And Q also synchronizes over there with our traffic system. So Q says, okay, do we have any advertisers? Okay, do we need to synchronize some images and text with these advertisers? Oh, we do. So it goes up and talks to Q360. The middleware takes all that information in, packages it into the RDS signal, and it's broadcast. So the really cool thing here is we take that same information that's already coming out of your playout automation. We take that same information and we provide any content, text and graphics that the broadcaster wants to pair with that particular content. So the audio is always going to be synchronized with your RDS. And we're always going to have the option to put in campaigns to pair with advertisers. If nothing's coming out of the automation system, that's when Q says, hey, we have these default messages that have been put in by programming, and this is the branding that we're going to display for this station. So it's not that complicated, and most of the pieces are already in place, especially if you already have an RDS encoder or an HD system in place. All we're doing is putting a service in the middle of the system that already exists, and it's a pretty simple deployment as well, but it makes it so dynamic. Everything coming out of your automation system can dynamically be attached to text and graphics.
Let's look at the next slide that has a little bit of additional information to the diagram. Okay, what got added here? Oh, the campaign entries. Tell us about that.
Right. So you'll see up top it says the automation says this is what is now playing. Q360 says this is what I want you to what I want you to display, and then the middleware says this is how it should be displayed, and it packages it into the HD system or that universal encoder protocol. So that's what we're doing here. What's playing? What should I display while that is playing, and how do I display that? And then down at the bottom, Q is a cloud-based service. So we have, it's really small, but we have a simple interface where you can simply put in what you want on each line of that RDS. And then there's also dynamic fields if you want those to be slightly different. And then it packages that up. And we provide all of that same exact information to RDS radio text fields, the dynamic RDS fields, and the HD fields. It all matches up and provides as consistent of a message as possible on the other side.
So what I hear you saying is that with a campaign, and oh, by the way, I like the fact that this is cloud-based, so that it sounds like work from home salespeople can enter a campaign from home, assuming that they're allowed to do that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Traffic director could enter a campaign. Program director on vacation in Hawaii, if he said, you know what? I forgot I need to promote our new midday guy, right? So he could put that part of the campaign in there.
Oh, absolutely. I'm on the phone with customers. I'm on Q. I don't have to even remote into the customer system because I'm accessing Q in the cloud, just like they're accessing Q in the cloud. Everything is cloud-based, and you can You can put all this information in. It's all a web-based interface. Very simple, very easy. We can do things that are synchronized with the audio. We can do billboard messages, which are time-based from day. We could day part them. We can do blast messages. We can do scores. So there's a lot of, you can, basically what we're doing is just like you fill up 24 hours of audio for your programming, we're allowing you to do the exact same for the RDS signal. You don't have to ever go without text on the display.
So a couple things really come to mind here. First of all, because you've set this up and helped us understand that between NAB and the smart people at Q, you've really figured out how to get the most out of about every kind of radio display out there. So no matter what radio people have, you're going to get a message across, even if they have an older radio with older RDS or a new multi-line display or some hobbled, some new radio that's actually been hobbled because the manufacturer wanted to save the big features for the expensive radio, right? You guys understand how to make this look the best on any display. So the station, if they're promoting themselves, or the advertiser, if you're taking their money to promote them additionally with text and maybe pictures, you're really doing the best possible on any RDS radio, right?
Right. Yeah. The core product here is associated with the core product of radio. That's the audio that's being broadcast. So we're being a content provider to your transmitter, essentially. That's not necessarily where we stop. We're a content provider. We could provide content to your web page. We could provide content to your app. We are providing this consistent messaging across different platforms as well. Radio and broadcast is our core, but that station's messaging doesn't just go out over FM or the HD signal. We want to stream. We want to have advertisements on our web page. We help provide a consistent message across all the platforms a broadcaster may use.
Now, as for selling this, of course, you guys have way more ideas for your management and sales in your pitch to radio stations, but I can see stations essentially selling this two different ways. Number one, you sell them a separate campaign. Hey, for an extra whatever it is, $1,000, $2,000, $800, whatever it is, you say, hey, not only will we run your ad, but we will put synchronized text on HD radio and your picture on HD radio and text on all FM radios along with your message, and that'll be consistent. And we can change that. We can even change it more often. But the other thing is, I deal with radio salespeople at our stations, and I know sometimes they're hesitant about asking for more money. Now, our best ones are not, but sometimes they don't want to ask for more money. You could say, you could. I'm not saying give this away, but you could add this kind of functionality, this kind of extra promotion for a bigger commitment. Hey, if you sign up for a year, make the year commitment, and or whatever it may be, or hey, sign up for 12 ads a day instead of 8 ads a day, and we'll add this to you. So some kind of a value add. So whether it's a separate cash sale or a value add, it seems like it would be two different ways to sell this to advertisers.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we go through different possibilities with the sales teams, and what you've just explained is definitely one of the ways it can be sold. It can be sold as a simple upsell to the audio ad. That's a great idea on an additional commitment. We really leave it up to the broadcasters how they want to sell it, because so many stations are different, markets are different, but huge opportunity for either upsells or additional revenue, all sorts of ways that the revenue can be realized with this additional content being displayed on the radio. Absolutely right.
Look, I have no idea of the numbers involved in terms of market size, but I can easily see even my small stations in a very small markets in Mississippi, Arkansas, small market in Hawaii, small market in American Samoa. None of these are big cities, but I could easily see our salespeople bringing in an additional $4,000, $8,000, $10,000 in additional revenue from adding this to the sales of the ads. It may take a while to prove that out, but go ahead.
Yeah,
Joe.
We've seen an average upsell of 10 to 15% over the audio. So you could take that to whatever market you want. You're potentially getting 10 to 15% additional revenue just by adding this text onto the air.
So an engineer walks back in the GM's office, and the GM office says, what's this going to cost me? You say, how would you like to up your revenue by 10%, maybe 15%? Well, yeah, I'd love that. What are you talking about? Let me show you. And then
absolutely.
This sounds like a great way for the engineer to shine. Let me show you this technology. Yeah. Okay. Hey, we have one more slide to look at here. We're going to skip the thank you slide and go to this last one about the Q advertiser. Tell me what this one is we're looking at.
Yeah, so this is one of the 3 tiers of service we offer. We talked about the artist, which is the song title and artist information, the listener experience, which allows you to add promotional messaging to your station. Then the next level up is the advertiser. This is what we add to the service if you want to pair these campaigns with the advertiser, the advertiser's messages with the audio. Sorry. So this is the level where you're actually selling this. But we allow the 3 different tiers so that if you really just want to get the song title and artist out on your station with RDS, we'll let you do that. If you want to work up to the advertiser experience, absolutely. So that's why we break this out into different service levels. But the advertiser experience is ultimately what I think the broadcasters could use the most, and of course that adds that additional revenue we were just talking about.
Cool. Hey, we're going to take one more quick break. When we come back, we're going to do 2 things. We're going to take one more look at that short video we showed at the beginning of the show. Now that you have an understanding of what the technologies are, we're talking about both FM RDS and the HD radio and the advertiser and messaging that can go on. We're going to look at that video again. It's short. It's about a minute long. And then we're going to have a tip of the week for you from Joe Marshall with QUU. And by the way, if you're watching this in the show notes, we're posting a couple of links that are important for you if you want more information, both the NAB's study and some other information in there. So we're going to hear, actually, one of your partners is Innovonics. They make RDS encoders. We're going to hear about another one of their products right now, the Aaron 655, and we'll be right back.
The Aaron 655 is the latest addition to the Innovonics family of rebroadcast receivers, designed specifically for FM broadcast translators, also referred to as relay transmitters. The Aaron 655 is unique as an uncompromising DSP-based HD radio and FM receiver combined with a powerful 3-band audio processor and dynamic RDS encoder. IP connectivity adds streaming capabilities, and a web browser interface gives you total remote control of the unit from any PC or mobile device. The Aaron 655 gives you maximum flexibility for program sources. Select program audio from analog FM, digital channels HD1 through 8, streaming sources, and analog or AES digital line inputs, all with assignable failover audio backup. The internal RDS encoder allows you to customize your RDS messaging. You can use incoming off-air RDS data, convert HD radio pad data to RDS, convert streamed metadata to RDS, or receive IP telnet data. Comprehensive audio processing includes gated and windowed AGC, a unique syllabic leveler, 3 bands of compression, and both wideband and independent HF limiting. Easy setup is achieved by using 10 factory presets and 10 customizable presets. The processor also supports day parting, allowing automatic preset changes to follow different programming formats throughout your broadcast day. The front panel has an OLED display and jog wheel with intuitive menus for easy setup, advanced control, and editing for all operating parameters. The Aaron 655 dynamic web interface gives you total remote control of the unit, from any PC or mobile device. A comprehensive set of menus includes a quick overview of now playing info, input-output control, processor options, RDS encoder, alarms and notifications, SNMP settings, and much more. You can also listen to the live audio broadcast streamed through the web interface.
They make the coolest stuff at Inovonics. You know what? When I was barely an adult, like at the age of 19, I was managing a radio station. The very first product I ever bought was from Inovonics. It was a MAP2 AM audio processor, and they're still going strong. Check them out from Broadcasters General Store. The website is bgs.cc. And the phone number, because these guys are good on the phone. You're going to enjoy talking to them. 352-622-7700. 352-622-7700. I've had that number memorized for, oh my goodness, 25, 30 years now. Broadcaster General Store, thank you for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. All right. Hey, Joe, I figured right now is a time, since we've gone through what this does, now we can watch that video again with a little more light on what we're seeing. So why don't we do that? And then we're going to have you come right back with our tip of the week. Suncast roll.
Wbko 1063 helps you forget the stress of the day with today's hits and yesterday's favorites.
Hurry in store or online and celebrate Lowe's Spring Fest before it's over. Offers valid to 428 while supplies last. Selection varies by location. U.S. only.
Attention home buyers and homeowners. If you're shopping for a mortgage or considering refinancing your home, call one of Kentucky's top mortgage lenders. South Central Bank can help make your dreams become reality. Contact them today. You can even apply online at southcentralbank.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back to the quickest podcast ever, brought to you by Kohl's. Today's topic, Mother's Day. Just picking out some gifts at Kohl's. Talk about shopping goals. 20% offer valid April 28th through May 2nd. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
When you're looking for the best pizza in town, look no further than Jet's Pizza. Just text your order to 270-938-1001. That's 938-1001. It's the easiest order yet. Jet's Pizza. Better because it has to be. Located off Campbell Lane in front of Lowe's.
From the Scudo Financial Weather Center, here's Shane Hollandy.
Here's your Wbko First Alert forecast for tonight. From Wbko, alerting you first, covering you best, I'm Chief Meteorologist Shane Hollandy for Wbko 1063.
Wbko 1063.
And there you go. Obviously, Lowe's didn't pay for any RDS or promotion on this because their ad ran without anything extra on there. Isn't that right, Joe?
Right. That's exactly right.
They missed
That's
out.
why you remembered South Central Bank though,
and Jet's Pizza,
and Jet's Pizza, right?
Actually during the ad, I was actually thinking about going to Jet's Pizza here in Nashville and picking up a pizza and bringing it home. I was actually thinking about that.
That phone number might be local to you, so
not 938-1001. I remembered it off the video. Yeah, except it's probably in Glasgow, Kentucky, or Bowling Green.
Yeah, maybe 45 minutes north there.
We should mention that those call letters, WOVO. I actually did some work at WOVO like about 142 years ago. I mean, I'm trying to think when it was. It must have been when was it? It had to be, oh gosh, I don't know. Late 80s, maybe mid 80s,
Yeah.
Late 80s. I don't know. I did some work there, and that's where I'm. Go ahead.
I helped install some consoles about 12, 13 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That in the downtown area in Glasgow?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Because back then they were out in a building on their own.
Right.
Yeah. At the I guess the AM transmitter site was there too. You know, the couple towers or something. Yeah. Anyway, that's where I met Steve Newberry. And wow. Well, anyway, I'm sorry. Tip of the week. You've got a tip for us about all this technology. What would you like to tell us and leave us with?
Well, it might be reiterating what we've talked about, but using RDS and HD to its full potential is essentially found inventory. Same time, more money. With using the full potential of these technologies, I think that's really what we're talking about. And like you said, if we can increase the revenue for the station, that would be a great thing for the engineering group to bring to the station.
Same time, more money. Hey, one thing I'm wondering, I'm a weather guy, so I was wondering if, I don't know if you guys have hooks into doing this yet. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but wouldn't it be cool if we could automatically, during a song, you're scheduling other promos to run. Hey, listen to the morning show. It's $1,000 Thursday. By the way, in Glasgow, it's 73 degrees and cloudy. In Bowling Green, it's 74 and partly cloudy. Is that kind of thing automatically possible? Are there plans for that kind of direction?
We've done it a few different ways. We can definitely put in manual blasts or emergency updates, but we are also looking into taking in those data feeds and providing that sort of service automatically. We're always looking to provide any type of content that would enhance the broadcaster's experience and add that to our service. But yeah, hopefully we can talk about that again next time.
It'd be interesting if you could do either some website scraping or watch a Twitter feed or something, to say, I don't know,
RSS feeds.
RSS feeds, person shot in Russellville, details top of the hour.
Right. Yeah. We already allow the override of all your current messaging in the case of emergency or breaking news or weather alerts. So that's something we do.
Could there be any interaction with EAS? Would that be appropriate even or not?
That normally would probably happen downstream from us anyway. And we would continue to provide all the information we're providing, but EAS would take that priority downstream.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. Joe, I want to thank you for being with us. By the way, one of your friends, Alan Hartle, is going to be on the show at some point. When they get RDS2 put into the new WorldCast encoder, we're going to have Alan on. We've talked about RDS2 some time ago. But it looks like it's starting to have some real application. So we'll be talking about that. Joe, thanks a lot for being with us. I really appreciate it. Folks, look at the show notes. We'll have some links in there that'll be helpful to you. And again, Joe, would love to have you back and love to try this stuff out myself. It's a short drive for me to go up to Glasgow, Kentucky. So maybe I'll get up there and see you there sometime.
Thank you so much, Kirk. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. Joe Marshall with QUU, and they're going through a website change, so we'll have links in the show notes on that. All right. Hey, thanks a lot to Suncast for producing This Week in Radio Tech. Really appreciate that, Suncast. Thanks also to Andrew Zarian, the founder of the GFQ Network, where you'll find other fine podcasts, including What the Tech. All right, we got to go. We're going to see you next week on This Week in Radio Tech. Bye-bye.